What's going on, good people out there? It is the Bad Wolf, and we, I shall be talking, you shall be listening to another right to travel, but this is in Georgia. So this came up in one of the comments. I do every once in a while, I'll take a look at the comments and I try to, get to them, but they do take up time, and I'm on so many platforms and whatever else. It's just nearly impossible to get to all of the uh DMs and messages and whatever else. So please don't take it as me being, cocky or all this or that. I would love to be able to answer everybody's questions. But unfortunately I can't just matrix all of my information, so I make these videos. And I do not have time between myself, family, friends, and trying to, keep the lights on. Because like I said, I'm not rich. All right. All right. If I was rich, I would have a maid and I would, yeah, probably be traveling somewhere and making videos from a nice island. But nope, still me from my same house, just a different room. Converted this bedroom into my office because I'm doing slightly better now. So I don't have to have a roommate. Just keeping it real. All right, so this video, because of somebody in the comments section who pointed out Georgia, and we did make some videos where we talked about certain things with certain states, but that wasn't one. So if I do see your comment, I may make a video on there. But just remember, like, I do not belong to the people. All right, I'm not a slave, I'm not a servant. Um, so I have free will. That is the greatest part about being in America and alive. So, and in this country, we're we're not property unless we choose to be, or we know how to assert our rights. So let's take a look at Georgia's right to travel and what they have to say about it. There's some interesting information that you might find it. Must not use the same word. Must not use interesting again. You'll find it amazing. All right, let's get going. All right, so once again, showing my source, unlike a lot of people, just the U.S. law, okay, 2024 Code of Georgia, Title 40, Motor Vehicle and Traffic. So for those people in Georgia, like I show you guys in all my videos, this is what you want to use when combining this information with either my files or the files you got or your other information to get your court case when doing right to travel dropped. What did I research? I typed in Georgia legislation or legislative code. You can type in motor vehicle, then registration. Definitely want to put in the word non-resident. Okay. And then either the word registered or exempt. This is how you do it for each one of your states. Then for Georgia, you want to copy and paste this whole code and highlight key sections and words. This should be added to even my documents if you get them. All right, because once again, chat does a decent job, but it does not understand all the private laws and rights. It's still learning. And be very careful on the codes that it uses because it doesn't get that right all the time. It was created in the belly of the beast. It has learned to be like its dad under what they would call parens patriae. It learned from its father. It is underneath the system. They didn't. I'll tell you this. I have had companies contact me who, we are now in agreement that they can use my materials to help their AIs learn private law. So it is getting better. It is getting on the way. They're going to create AI specifically that you can then go to and use, and it will be like having me sit right there, but on steroids and probably crack. Not that I've ever been on either, and I don't plan on it. No, thank you. But yeah, so let's take a look and see here what it says. Okay, hold on. So did you hear that? No, probably not, huh? I don't think it chimed in. Okay, it probably wasn't recording. Sorry. It does that sometimes. It's a new Zoom feature where you have to get to this window and share it before it actually, and then hit the button to share the sound. Otherwise, it does not share the computer sound. So that's what happened in the one video that a couple people complained about that it wasn't reading.
A. For purposes of this code section. 1. Non-resident means any person who does not reside in the state of Georgia but who accepts employment or engages in any trade, profession, or occupation in the state or enters his children in the public schools of this state.
Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to break this down on the legal level. Okay. See, you guys can read this, and this doesn't sound like anything for you whatsoever. You don't see any U.S. citizen identifiers. Hell, you're not even seeing state citizen or national. Wolf, this is weird. It's scary. What a world. What a world. Okay. Sorry for the theatrics. Not sorry. Let's go. So, non-resident. The word non-resident means somebody who does not belong to their jurisdiction. It means a person or an entity not found in their voter registration, not a member of theirs, not an employee of theirs, not their property, because you are non-residing. Non-res, we know re means to leave one place and go to another. So leaving one place and residing or residing and entering. So you are a non-residing and entering individual or entity, which can be either you, but in this case, generally, it's generally considered not you unless you have an affidavit of being a non-resident while operating your vehicle privately, your non-motor vehicle. But this is why we create the irrevocable trust or other private thing not registered to them, because then the non-resident is that thing. And when you transfer ownership of your vehicle or your property or whatever else into this non-resident that you've created, it's tax exempt. They can only tax, ticket, and tow and terrorize that which is theirs by local, federal, state, international, and God law. Don't tread on me. So this means that they're saying that as a non-resident, you are generally considered a resident because you've proved residency to them and you can vote. And even if you stop voting, they still have your name in the computer. So they're going to go off of that. Hey, we think this is you. Well, I'm not operating in a resident capacity. I can't go to a judge or a police officer's house at 2:30 in the morning and say, "Hey, I need you to do your job. Here's my paperwork." It's like, bro, this is my private home. I'm in private capacity. What are you doing here? You have the right to be regarded as a U.S. citizen, which is a resident, or a non-resident, which is you as a national, a state citizen, a Floridian, a New Yorker, a Wisconsinite, Californian, Arkansan, an Alaskan. Those terms have lawful standing under GPO Style Manual Section 5.23. So, as a non resident, if you are in that particular event, you have both resident and non resident. You have both. Your entity, when you create it, is a non resident back in America, equity, land, real, tangible, de jure. But when and if, and it is optional, especially for an irrevocable trust or a 508c1a, But if you do register it, once again, register, R-E, to register it, which means to reside it from the private to the public, then it becomes a resident. This is why some states don't recognize those things. Like in our Telegram group, so one lady's like, yeah, or a couple people were like, yeah, they're not recognizing my 508. They're not recognizing my, you're not supposed to try to reside your private thing. Now, I'm not going to yell and get all actually like some people on YouTube call you stupid or dumb or this, that, and the other. I get it. It's your first time in the wilderness. You don't know not to eat the berries. But yeah, the whole purpose of being private is to not have them recognize it. The whole purpose to being tax exempt is you're not asking the man or the woman for their approval. You're not asking the king, you are the king or the queen. I don't know how you guys are watching my videos. You know, you're not watching, you're not watching enough, or you're not getting it. You don't owe them anything. You have the absolute right to be private with everything you have, including yourself. Period. That's what the Constitution says. Do you know what kind of gall it took for the founding fathers to leave that system, borrow money from them to go to a new land, to then push people off their land, to then set up a whole set of laws and codes to be against being public, only for George Washington to basically sell us out because we didn't really win the war. We did a corporate merger because we were losing financially, to then give them the District of Columbia, and hence they named it after him, the District of Washington, District of Columbia, Washington, comma D.C., Washington and D.C. It's not Washington D.C. It's Washington and D.C. So they named that area Washington after him, and then called the part in there that is not American, but it's in the American family, but they are have their own government and laws and things. Kind of like I'm not a Johnson, but I can be a member of the Johnson family through marriage. District of Columbia. A non-resident means any person who does not reside in the state of Georgia, but the state of Georgia is a corporation. And in means on their paper. Can they find you in and on their paper, in their system, on their paper? You can be in the same geographical area that's Georgia state, which is different than the state of Georgia. Those are two separate entities. But who accepts employment or engages in any trade, profession, occupation in, once again, the state, lowercase s, different than upper right here, or enters his children or her children, come on, state of Georgia, get with the times, in public schools of this state. So they're saying a non-resident, you can be there. You can be in, now understand these are their words. Non-resident is their words. Person is generally their word. Reside, their word. State of Georgia, their word. Employment, their word. Engage, their word. Trade, profession, occupation, their word. Children, their word. Public schools, their benefit, privilege. So they're saying you can do all of these things and not be their property. Visitor means any person who resides in the state of Georgia and who is not a resident as defined in this subsection. So they're naming different things. Are you a visitor of the state of Georgia or are you a non-resident? Those are two separate things. But let's get down to the main part we're trying to get to. But you have to understand the whole path from A to B. So now, B, motor vehicles. This is their word. This means commercial, means public. means taxable, ticket, tollable. A police officer's motor cruiser is a motor vehicle used to make money on the roads. So a lot of people call them road pirates because they're using the roads to make money. You're a highwayman. In the old days, a highwayman was somebody who robbed you while you were on the road trying to go from here to there. Didn't matter how fast you rode your horse or your buggy or dinosaur or whatever the hell you had. So the fact that they now govern that, they're saying, well, we have to, for general safety, we want everybody to be slow, but they primarily have a jurisdiction over residents. Now, this doesn't mean you can speed, because once again, that's endangering public safety. It just makes sense for everybody. Everybody's agreed on that. But if you see the whoever owns the vehicle gets to define it. The city and the county, the state, or whoever owns the police cruisers, those are motor vehicles, and they're registered to the DMV for the operation, which is their word, thereof. The streets themselves are public and private. They're open for public and private use. Motor vehicles, if you own it or the state owns it and it's defined as a motor vehicle, it's for public. Generally, there can be some public but private things still registered. So a motor vehicle, so they're never going to use our words or private words because those are out of their jurisdiction. So they have to give you remedy, but they give you remedy and usually by you adopting one of the words in there that negates ownership. So here they're saying a motor vehicle, our stuff, owned by non-residents. Ooh, we don't own non-residents. So this now negates basically everything they're about to say. May be used and operated their word, on public streets. Okay. So we own the streets, we paid for them. They're public and private. But in regards, if it is construed that you're doing public things, then the street then takes on the denotation of being public. So then you're in their jurisdiction. So it says a motor vehicle owned by a non-resident, which means somebody or something not in their jurisdiction, not registered to them, may be used and operate on public streets and highways, high waterways, maritime jurisdiction, for a period of 30 days without registering it, RE, to bring into there to register said motor vehicle. That's an assumption or defined by you, or if it's a police vehicle or such, in their computer system on paper. The state of Georgia, a corporation for profit, member of the American family, but not itself intrinsically American. Motor vehicles owned by visitors, different entity, may be used and operate on the public streets for highway for pleasure purposes only, comma, for a period of 90 days. Now, most other sites I've been to, including mine, or websites for they don't break it down that there's a thing that they identify separately as visitors. For a period of 90 days without registering said motor vehicle in the state. But okay, Wolf, if that's the case, and they're telling you that even if I claim to be this non-resident or a visitor, I can only use it for 30 or 90 days. But what you're not catching us here is you're not rebutting the presumptions that, yes, you're operating as a non-resident, but I'm not operating a motor vehicle. I'm not operating it for public use on the public streets. See, state of Georgia cannot tell you that you as a non-resident for private use cannot be in their area. That'd be sanctioning you. They don't have the right. That's interference with interstate commerce. They've already agreed that anybody can use the roads privately, but they use the words public. When they use this, they're saying, yeah, we understand that you're a non-resident, but if you say that it's a motor vehicle, it's operated, you're operating it, you're public, then you're basically saying you're one of us. So you've got 30 days. All right. But here's the thing. They would also then have to prove that you've been using your motor vehicle for 30 continuous days. This is your also your remedy, even if we use it the way they want this to be read or understood. So, okay, prove that I'm a non-resident, my vehicle is a motor vehicle, I'm operating it, which is a profession, that I'm using it in a the streets and the highways for in a public fashion for 30 days continuously. Prove that because I'm literally only in my vehicle for an hour at a time. To be eligible for the exemptions provided for in paragraph 1 or 2 of the section, a non-resident or visitor shall have fully complied with the laws relating to the registration of motor vehicles of the state or territory wherein he resides. This means that whatever state you create, which would be your private thing, has no problem with the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia has no problem with it. So if you're complying with what you have in your irrevocable trust or your entity or you know micronation or whatever else, none of this applies to you. Why? Because it says that you, the visitor, or you, the non-resident, shall fully comply with the laws relating to the registration of motor vehicles of the state or territory in which you reside, which is what you create. So you need to stay in there. Yeah, we're private. Yeah, it's not a motor vehicle. Then this negates all of that. But if you look at it from their perspective, still yet, this says you're good to go. And the registration number and initial letter of such state or territory shall be displayed and plainly visible on such motor vehicles. This is why the name of your entity needs to be on the top of your plate. You're complying, you're playing with them in the sandbox. You're saying, look, man, I don't have to abide by you. I'm private. But just to play nice, I will definitely do these things. So there's no problem. And if a police officer bothers me, I'm going to say, well, I'm in compliance with Title 40, motor vehicle traffic, blah, 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 registration, all this. A, 1, 2, B, 1, 2, and 3. And 4, but let's see what it says. And 4. No resident, so once again, resident, meaning your legal name, your legal person, or legally registered business or entity to their state of Georgia, this really should say state of Georgia, shall be entitled to the exemptions provided for in paragraph 1 or 2 of the section. So they're saying if they can find the name of your entity that owns, or you that owns, you haven't changed it over and gifted it to your private entity or thing, not registered to them, if they can find that your name or your business owns that vehicle in the DMV, you are not entitled to this exemption. And then let's look at C. Now, we don't have to comply with the whole thing here. We're already good here as a non-resident. We already said. So A1 is all we really need to do, but you can kill them by breaking them down with the rest of this information. So let's look at C. Notwithstanding subsection A of this code, a non-resident student. Okay, so a student means to be in their school as somebody registered. So that's a contract. You're a non-resident, so you're not really their property, but you're a student. So you're kind of sticking your foot into the shallow end of the pool. Who is a resident of a state which is a member of the multi-state reciprocity agreement, meaning any of the other states, state of whatever, shall be exempt from the requirements of registering his motor vehicle in this state in accordance with the provisions of said multi-state reciprocity agreement. So if you want to find a loophole, become a student, register somewhere, become a student. You don't have to register your motor vehicle in their state. And if you didn't know, you can also register your vehicle in a state like Montana, especially if you're having problems getting your vehicle registered due to um, emissions problems or paperwork issues or whatever else. Oops, gem drop, if you know how to use that. Hmm. So, guys, your freedoms and rights are out there. Don't let any of these people try to throw you off your game or you're going to get into trouble. You're going to, no, don't get me wrong. They're the trouble. They're the problem because they don't even understand their own laws and they don't teach a lot of their low level functionaries this information, how to read it on the legal level, nor do they teach them constitutional, private, or international rights, which you have if you know how to utilize them, stand on them, and or enforce them if needs, but never in a belligerent or combatant way. You leave that for the courts and you sue them because that's much more effective and damaging than trying to argue on the side of the road or fighting them or doing anything that we do not condone here or operating as a sovereign citizen or belligerent sovereign cop. Don't do that. This is all business at the end of the day. I don't know you. We're not friends. So what does that leave? Either business or enemies. I would prefer to do business. But as an American, if I have to be your enemy, that's something you don't want. I'll tell you that. But olive branch of peace and good business, for that is all that this is. Business at the end of the day. Jurisdictions, contracts, and knowing your rights, freedoms, and liberties. That's it, guys. Don't forget to hit that bell, like, subscribe. Welcome to the tribe. And if you're a good person and you want to learn, you will not be denied. Often tried and ready to be tried again. I'll talk to you guys later and have a good day, my friends.